What if insulin was suddenly no longer available? This may sound far-fetched, but it really isn't. Supply chains can fail and disaster can happen, so it's not unrealistic that at some point during our lives access to insulin will be interrupted, even if only temporarily. So the question becomes, what should we do in such a situation? And this is a thought experiment, obviously, not medical advice. As a type 1 diabetic, you cannot live without insulin. Insulin is absolutely required. But if insulin were temporarily unavailable, the only thing that you can still control is how much insulin your body needs. This doesn't make it safe, but it increases the chances of lasting out the situation. So here is what I would do. First of all, I would cut out all carbohydrates. No discussion possible because carbohydrates immediately raise the blood glucose levels and they require insulin. And the same holds for proteins. Proteins are a building block, but especially if you eat more proteins than needed, this raises the amount of gluconeogenesis. Proteins get converted to glucose and you will need insulin again. And to some degree this also holds for fats. Although fats themselves hardly require insulin, as soon as they get stored, just as other nutrients, this raises the likelihood that eventually they get converted back to glucose by the liver, and they end up in your bloodstream again. Well, that's how food influences the glucose levels, but also your lifestyle matters. Try to reduce stress as much as possible because stress raises hormones like cortisol and glucagon, and this will trigger your liver to release glucose into the bloodstream, and you will need insulin to compensate for that. Aim for low intensity exercise, avoid strength training because that raises cortisol, and try to maintain muscle mass because muscles are a perfect glucose sink. Both insulin mediated and non-insulin mediated, so even in the absence of insulin, muscles will still be beneficial for glycemic control. Try to stay hydrated as much as possible. Drink enough water and make sure you get enough electrolytes. This will favor glycemic control. And in the case of hyperglycemia, although it's not optimal, being hydrated will help the kidneys to excrete excess glucose. Finally, be mindful of circadian rhythm and sleep quality. This will increase insulin sensitivity, and obviously insulin sensitivity won't help, but it will also reduce stress levels. Reduce the production of glucose inside the body. Interestingly, thinking about all of this also gives insights about what are healthy choices for diabetics in general. And it's not a surprise that before the invention of injectable insulin at the beginning of the 20th century, many of the ideas that I just discussed were already implemented. So there you have it. These are my ways to get through a situation of insulin unavailability. This will increase your odds of survival and reduce the damage as much as possible. And of course, it's better to prevent a situation like this. So always stock up on insulin. Try to have insulin for at least several weeks, maybe several months available in your fridge. And in case of a power outage, don't worry. Most insulins can stay unrefrigerated for at least 4 weeks. Good luck!